Welcome back. Today I want to take up some things right here at the beginning that really are about next week, but they won't work well next week unless you know about them in advance. So before we preview Module 6 and before I talk about and review what happened in Module 5, I want to talk to you about Assignment 7.8, which will be a peer review assignment that will be due 1 week from Saturday. So not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Here's why I'm bringing this assignment to your attention now. That assignment asks you to produce 2 drafts of a revised teaching philosophy. Now you wrote some rough notes for this in Module 1, but now we've been through most of the class and you're coming back and hopefully rethinking how you articulate the story of your teaching, who you are as a teacher, what matters to you, how that looks in the classroom, or how you imagine it looks for those of you who are starting your teaching careers. The assignment asks you first to write a 1,000-word version of your teaching philosophy. It asks you then to share that 1,000-word version with colleagues or others in your field. That is not within the class itself, though if you can't find people outside, you may ask some of your peers if they would do that reviewing. But it asks you to write the 1,000-word version, share it with someone in your field who has a sense of what teaching looks like in that field, get some feedback from them on that draft, and then rewrite a second draft as a 500-word version. So the first one's getting a lot of ideas out, getting some feedback on it, and the second one is writing a 500-word version. And the reason for the 500 words is that's about a page, which in many professional situations, job application, etc., that's often what you can count on a search committee reading. If it gets much longer than that, you may not be able to count on them reading that. So that's the reason for the 500 word count. It's both of those actually, even though it's the 500 word one that your peers will pay most attention to, but it's both of them that you will submit on Saturday, a week from this coming Saturday, for peer review. Now, because it involves 2 drafts, if you aren't starting on it until next Wednesday or next Thursday, it's going to be very hard to find somebody in your department, amongst your friend or family group, etc., to give you some feedback on it. And note that the instructions also do say if you cannot find anyone else, that there are some questions for a self-evaluation of that first draft. But if you're not starting the first draft until next Wednesday, it's a really, really tight schedule to get that and the revised 500-word version done before Saturday night. So that's why I'm telling you about it now. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that. Now for our review and preview. This last week, first let me apologize. I was traveling this weekend and not as much on the forums as usual, and I apologize for that. And I also apologize that we had some broken links early in the module, and I think we were able to sort all of those out, though there's still a question mark there for a couple of you. But I'm sorry about those glitches that we had this last week. But we were talking about active learning and how do we engage our students actively. And so we had a number of occasions. You were sharing with each other a chance that you took to teach something to a friend, family member, a colleague, a student, and you did those in the small group discussion. You developed another active learning technique in the peer review. and a third one for your portfolio submission. And even though there were minor variations between them, really the goal was to build this repertoire of activities. And for this coming week, and I'll post this as one of our forum questions, I actually want to continue that discussion further. Throughout the class, we have been having these side questions about, okay, now how do we translate this to online teaching, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous online teaching? How might we use some of the things that we've talked about that are often presented in terms of brick and mortar classrooms, but how might we do it online? So I do want to have a forum discussion this week about active learning in that online environment. Some of you made some suggestions already, but it'd be great to build that repertoire even further. So that was Module 5. In Module 6, we're coming to two of the main documents that we often produce when teaching a class. And those are assignment prompts and syllabi. Now, of course, they are documents, but they are the means towards, whether it's a course as a whole with the syllabus, or a particular set of activities that accumulate in a project, an essay, a demonstration of some sort with an assignment prompt. But how do we go about writing those? What makes for an effective assignment prompt and an effective syllabus? As you can imagine at this point, we are going to go back and think about the idea of backwards design, and we'll be using that to think through how to put together an assignment that considers the outcome, the learning goals, and of course the assignment should reflect those learning goals and be the means of assessing whether those goals have been met, and the steps of instructions, finally, that we need to give our students to help scaffold their way through that assignment. We'll also be talking about some things that often happen in assignments that get in the way. We'll be thinking about assessment. Now, we'll do a lot more thinking about feedback in Module 7, but here we do want to think about how we create criteria, rubrics when appropriate, for the assignments that we give. So we will be thinking about that as well. Syllabus, likewise, we're thinking in terms of backwards design, this time the big picture. Overall, when my students come out of this course, what do I want them to be able to do, to be able to create? What skills do I want them to have mastered, and to what degree of mastery? From there, what are the assignments, or the exams, or the other ways of assessing whether students have achieved that? And finally, what are the individual lessons, the individual sequences of modules or units that will create that pathway to those learning outcomes? So that is what we're up to this week, is really focusing on the assignments and assignment prompts and the syllabi and what makes for a good syllabus. It will require you to do some research in your field, because as we've done at a number of other junctures throughout the course, we want to think carefully, not just about general principles of teaching, but what it looks like in our field. Why have certain texts, certain activities, certain assignments become staples of the field? Are there things in a syllabus that I am creating that are really necessary because of the nature of the field that I'm writing in? So this will be, I think, a module that's really intensive in terms of resources that you're going to be pointed towards, that you'll have access to as you think about assignment design and syllabus design. And it will focus on the very practical activity of preparing assignments and preparing a syllabus. We will be talking on the forums about assignments that have worked or have not worked for us, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say about that. And like I said earlier, I hope we can also have a discussion about active learning techniques for online courses, for those of you that are interested in online teaching or have done some in the past and can help those who are trying to figure out what that looks like. I look forward to being with you more on the forums this week, and I'll talk to you again next week.
Hi all. I wanted to talk about something that I forgot to mention within the video itself, so I'm doing a little voiceover here. And that is with assignment 610, that's when you're submitting your syllabus. That particularly for those of you who have not taught before, you have the option to find a syllabus from your field of study and to adapt it using the principles of backward design to make it fall in line with your learning outcomes and to make the adjustments that you think are appropriate to that syllabus. So you don't have to start from scratch if you've never written a syllabus before. However, if you do choose to adapt an outside syllabus, please be sure that you upload that other syllabus too, so that we can see the work that you've done in adapting it, and so that you can appropriately credit the source of much of that material. That's all. Sorry to have left that out of the main video, and I'll see you all next week.